So this is the Mlais M9, a budget phone with some great specs. This phone can match the performance of a premium smartphone. So can this phone be a competitor to the OnePlus One? Is it the best unlocked phone under $200? The long-awaited review of the Mlais M9 is here. Stay tuned. So as always, starting off with the design, I was immediately surprised by the fact that this phone actually has very good build quality and really not what I was expecting from a phone that is so cheap. It doesn't feel like it was cheaply made and actually feels a lot more premium than some other more expensive phones. The back of the phone is plastic, but it is okay for me because it is removable, which is a big plus. You have access to the battery and also are able to put a micro SD card in so that you can expand the storage, because this only comes with 8 GB of memory. Another plus of the design is that this phone is dual SIM, which means you can put 2 SIM cards in here, which is great for traveling so you can still use your phone internationally. This phone also has some other more premium design features such as Gorilla Glass and an IPS display and touch capacitive buttons. The buttons, however, don't light up, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's fine. The buttons are very responsive and had no problems with them. One thing I really want to talk about is how thin this phone is. This phone is a crazy 7.5 millimeters thin, which is actually one of the thinnest phones on the market right now. This metallic part on the side comes in at 4.5 millimeters. So as you can see, this is a super thin phone, and the good thing is that it still comes with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, because some thin phones don't. Even though it is super thin though, the phone doesn't sacrifice battery life because it has a 2800 milliamp battery, which is pretty good and is still a little bit bigger than average Android phones. The design of the Mlais M9 is simple, but feels like a premium device, which I was not expecting. Moving on to the camera, this is where I was a bit disappointed, but this was kind of expected because this is a very cheap phone, so they had to cut costs somewhere. So on paper, this has an 8 megapixel back camera and a 5 megapixel front facing camera. Those camera specs sound really good, but the actual pictures and video don't turn out so great. The pictures still turn out really pixelated and doesn't do good in low lighting. The pictures from the front facing camera also has this green hue on the photos for some reason. This only occurs occasionally, but it was a bit annoying. The back camera is a little bit better, but a lot of pictures still turn out really noisy, which was a bummer. But this camera is not totally bad and can pass for some quick photos and good lighting. Another thing about the camera is that the focus sometimes has a hard time focusing on the thing you're trying to focus on. So this camera is definitely not a premium camera, but hey, the company had to cut costs somewhere to keep this phone so cheap. So you're not getting this phone for the camera, so why is this phone worth picking up? So the main reason you're going to get this phone is going to be for its awesome performance at such a low price. This phone is packing an octa-core processor, and I have to say that it is super fast. Another cool thing is that this processor adapts to your phone's needs. So let's say you're just browsing the web or navigating your phone, the processor gets clocked down a bit so that it can save a little bit of battery, which is a nice feature, but when you're gaming, the processor goes full speed so that games can run flawlessly. Every game I tried, from casual to graphically intensive, this phone had no problem running it. This phone has a pretty good ARM Mlais GPU to help with rendering the graphics of the games. So it's great to know that this phone can handle pretty much any game I throw at it. Multitasking was also good, even though it only has 1 GB of RAM. I can run multiple apps without having to deal with any lag. The processor seems to make up for the lack of RAM, but it would still be nice if they added at least 1 more gig of RAM though. So the overall performance of this phone is really great and just blows my mind that this phone is only $100 and I can get this type of performance. And for the sake of people who just want to have benchmarks, I will run the Antutu benchmark test for you guys. But remember that benchmarks sometimes aren't the best at showing the performance of phones. But here the M9 got a score of right under the HTC One, which is really good for a phone like this. So let's talk about the display on this phone. When first booting this phone up, I immediately thought that this phone was a 1080p phone because of how vibrant and clear the display was. This is an IPS display, which are pretty much the best type of display you can have on a smartphone because of those amazing viewing angles. No matter which way I look at this phone, the colors are not washed out. So overall, a great display. However, to my surprise, I found out that this phone was only a QHD display, not Quad HD, but QHD, which means that this has a display of 960 by 540, which is a little bit below 720p, but comparing my phone to 720p displays, I see that this phone looks a lot better than them because of the vibrant colors. After close observation of the display, I did see the pixels though, but still this is a great display overall. I'm sure anybody who is looking for a budget phone will be very pleased with the display they're getting. So this phone does work in the US, which is unique because a lot of phones that come from different countries don't support US carriers, but this phone works with pretty much every carrier here, and I'm currently using AT&T and it works just fine. Another cool thing is that this phone is a dual SIM phone, so you can use 2 SIM cards, which is great for traveling. So if that is a feature that you want in a phone, then this would be a great buy for you. My only problem with this device is that it can only support HSPA Plus or 3G connection, which took some time getting used to because I had 4G LTE on my old phone. So sometimes the download speeds were a little bit slow, but I could still do everything I needed to when I was on data. The only thing I do while on data is probably listening to some music on Spotify or browsing the web, so HSPA Plus seems to do good with that. I had minimal problems while calling or texting, but when calling I noticed that the speaker volume is pretty low and sometimes I can't hear the person that well, but I usually have some earphones to counter that problem. So for a new segment in my reviews, we'll go over some pros and cons of the device to wrap up the review. So let's start off with the cons of the device. So the camera isn't that great, HSPA Plus is the fastest supported data connection, call volume is a little bit low, doesn't have a lot of memory. So let's get into the pros of the phone now. You're getting some great performance, great build quality, amazingly cheap price, good display, Android KitKat, and being upgraded to Lollipop, and a bunch of great features. So is this phone worth it? Definitely. You won't find a phone this cheap that performs this well and that feels this premium and comes with all of these features. This is probably the best unlocked budget phone you can get, so if you're interested, I will leave the link to where you can buy this phone in the description. As always, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more tech videos from me, and I'll see you in the next review.